All right, good evening, fellow protectors. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Greg LeBuff here with you. I also have Coach Dustin Doderay with me. Coach Brad's away this week, so this is going to be a fun episode. I titled this one Naked Self-Defense. and my wife saw and got quite the laugh out of it and stuff like that. But it is, I'll tell this so anyone that's joining us, it is not what you think it is, right? I mean, like, are these guys actually talking about how to fight when you're naked? No, there's a different, it's an analogy. There's a different, deeper concept. But I'll tell you what, the idea of naked self-defense, I think, is really, really important. I kind of remember the very first time I heard about this concept, my coach, mentor, Paul, had said, kind of phrased this to me, and I never forgot it because I was like, that's what I aspired to be. And it was unbelievable. And I'm going to share that with you guys tonight. We're going to unpack it. So please stick with us back in a few seconds after our intro. And then I'm going to share with you what naked self-defense means. Every day I hear more stories of good people being brutally assaulted and murdered by some individual who has a repeat history of violent offenses, drug addiction, and mental health issues, who is free to walk the streets in the same city where I live, work, and where I am raising my two daughters. Well, I'm tired of screaming at the TV, and enough is enough. Throughout history, there have always been men willing to answer the call to the threats against our way of life. Well, today, that threat is right outside our doors, on our streets, in our neighborhoods, on our public transportation system, outside the places we work, and even outside of our children's schools. My new mission is to create and train a group of men that believe in the right to life and value the freedom a man has to protect his life, his family, and his property. I'm Greg LeBuff. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. All right, let's dive into this naked self-defense. Here's how I had this concept first explained to me, and this I'll explain why I thought this was so powerful. I remember one time we were training, and there was a little bit of pre-context, but I'm not going to go into all the details. But Paul basically looked at me and said, listen, the whole concept of what you want, what you were trying to accomplish here is don't get it skewed. You should be able to, at 3 o'clock in the morning, if people broke into your room, kidnapped you, stripped you fucking naked, took every possession, took everything from you, flew you to some other part of the world, right? Doesn't matter where, some of the worst fucking neighborhood, the worst place in the fucking world, dropped you down fucking naked, you had nothing. You should be able to, from that point, with nothing more than your instincts, your mindset, your knowledge, your skill sets, your cunning, your determination, your perseverance, your experience, all of those things, you should be able to weaponize and defend and protect. You could fight your way out of that bad neighborhood. You could survive. You could protect. And it was this big aha moment, because I realized that, if you're a welder, you need your tools to weld. You say, oh, I'm a welder, but if you don't have the welding machine, you don't have the tools, you're fucked. If you look at even a doctor, right? Look at the way modern medicine is going. Most of it, they need equipment, they need medicine, they need pills, they need machines to diagnose, to be able to prescribe, to be able to fix. How many things would you not be able to cure, to fix, to do whatever, if you didn't have access to those tools and those modern medicines? Now, with that, let's put a caveat. What was medicine like many, many years ago, before you had MRI machines and ultrasound machines and all that stuff? There's tribes of people living in the Amazon rainforest that understand more about the nature and the plants and the medicinal healing qualities. Meaning what? They actually can treat disease, they can treat injury, they can do all these things and survive because they have knowledge, instincts, perseverance, ingenuity, all of that type of stuff. You look at a pilot needs a plane to fly. Right, so the concept of naked self-defense is that this is the fucking weapon. It is what sits on top of your fucking shoulders and your ability to use it. What have you done? What have you trained? What have you weaponized? What have you put into that when it comes to survival, when it comes to understanding violence? So, and let me give you a bit of a catalyst to why I picked this topic for this week. Because every week, probably 3-4 times a week, I get comments, I get emails. Sometimes I get text messages or phone or voicemails. And it is always, and the latest one, the way it was phrased kind of set me off a little bit. And the similarity of all of them is, you guys can train as much as you want to train, but it doesn't make a fucking difference because the government's taken away our guns. It doesn't make a difference. None of that training matters if you face a guy with a gun. You know what I mean? None of this matters. The problem is, it's the wild, it's out of control drug use. Like, so it doesn't even matter. Like, there's all these, everyone always looks at, there's two types of men, right? There are people out there, men out there, that always are looking at how the deck is stacked against you. And listen, I don't want to make a political commentary on anything. What I want people to try to do is let's step back for a second and let's look at this from maybe a different perspective. If you live in a society, and many would argue that this is Canada today, if you live in a society where the government is trying to take or is actively taking and reducing your rights, meaning what? In what way? Well, they are trying to take your firearms away from you. They want to restrict and remove firearms from good people's homes. Okay, if that's actually happening, and it is. I'm not getting into the political side of it. I'm saying let's look at it from a different perspective. When that happens in a society, because will that happen? Has it ever happened in history? Will it happen? Yeah, it fucking happens. It's happening. It happens, whatever. If that's happening, then that is a fucking reality of it. Now, yes, sign your petitions. Take to the streets. One of the phrases everybody throws around is don't comply. I would encourage people to not comply. Use the power of, freedom of thought and choice and all this stuff. Yes, 100%. We have to fight for our rights. We have to fight for the rights that we want. People often say these are God-given rights. They're not God-given rights. They're rights and freedoms that people have fucking spilt blood for to earn, and more people will have to spill blood to maintain them. But if we step back, can a government implement laws justly or unjustly, right or wrong, for the betterment or the detriment of a society? Can they do that? Yeah, they can fucking do it. History tells us that. So guess what? If I have a firearm and the government comes and takes my firearm, yes, I'm not saying that you have to comply. I'm not, whatever. But I'm saying if they come and take my firearm, naked self-defense. It is not possible for anyone to regulate and restrict every single thing that could be used as a weapon. And the idea with naked self-defense is that what Tom, and Paul, my instructors, always said to me. It's right. You have a firearm and you're skilled with the firearm. Well, Murphy's fucking law. You're going to find yourself in the most righteous, deadly force encounter, and your firearm either won't be accessible to you, it won't work for that situation, it fucking jams, it's the wrong tool, whatever the fuck it is. Murphy's Law, something's going to fuck up. And so the one thing that you depended on is now no longer there. Now, again, you talk about firearms in the use of self-defense. Is there an advantage to having a firearm in many, many situations? Let's say even most situations? Clearly. You know what I mean? Clearly. You got an active shooter, you're out at the movie theater and someone fucking busts in and starts shooting up the theater. Yeah, man, if we have some fucking well-trained fucking warriors, right, who have concealed carry, who have their firearms on you, who have the scanning, the training, the skill sets, the knowledge to fucking use that gun, they are going to be a life-saving force in that dark, critical moment. But let's say they don't, whether the government took them or whatever the fuck it is, but they don't have them. Do we roll over and die? Like, I'll submit it again this way. Naked self-defense. Give me the warrior that you can strip fucking naked, put him into the worst neighborhood in the worst part of the fucking world, in the most violent terrain ever, and that motherfucker will use his skill, his determination, his knowledge, his intuition and instincts, his perseverance, his fucking determination, and he'll figure something the fuck out. He'll pull a board off a fucking fence. He'll fucking, look at these guys in prison. He'll find a fucking old toothbrush lying on the ground and make a shiv out of it. He'll use that shiv until he can upgrade to something different, and he'll take that and upgrade to something different. I mean, where does survival skill sets and where does the whole weaponized concept, where does it originate from? The firearm? Or is the magic in the bullets? Where does it come from? These are tools. And yes, tools can make the job easier, but guess what? Geez, this is shocking. You're not always going to have the perfect tools in an unperfect situation. And maybe the last thing I'll throw out there, and then Dustin, you can jump in on this, is I like reading books on survival. And a lot of the stories that I've read where people are in plane crashes or fucking shipwrecked or whatever natural catastrophe, or mechanical disaster that has befallen them, they find themselves in a life and death survival situation. Many of these stories, they don't have the perfect survival kits with them. They weren't fortunate enough to be in a plane crash and have a fucking blow up heated tent with survival skills, with a sat radio, with blah, 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 blah. They're left with virtually nothing, many times fucking injured. and this would be my last point, then Dustin, I'll let you jump in. I've heard this saying before, but Paul said the same thing. Naked self-defense. With nothing, stripped naked, worst neighbor, all this stuff should be able to survive. You find yourself in the most critical situation with none of the fucking advantages. There are two types of men. Those that get busy fucking dying and those that get busy fucking living. That's naked self-defense. So if your training is only training you to rely on tools and having superior tools and superior firepower, then we got a problem. And again, I hope people can separate this. I'm not saying you should willingly give up anything. We have to fight and protect and defend our rights, because who doesn't want to make surviving easier? Well, we all do. I'm just saying that the survivable value lies on assuming or going and training off the worst case scenario, meaning I won't have any of the luxury items. I won't have my fucking Kevlar vest. You won't have your tack gloves and your fucking perfect glasses, shooting glasses. And, you won't have all these, creature comforts. You won't have your perfectly designed fucking knife. Okay, so this is, to me, the root of weaponization is naked self-defense. And that means that this fucking thing better be fucking razor sharp. You better have honed it, educated it, built it, bulletproofed it, so on and so forth. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Dustin.
I mean, you obviously, like you said it all. I should have just interrupted you.
And we're over.
But yeah, like two things for me. I mean, like the gun thing. I mean, it's always that's always such a big thing because we hear that so much. Like,
Yeah.
oh, a 12 gauge works better, or blah blah blah. A Glock in the meantime. All like comments we've had them over and over again for years and years, and it's like, I mean, we live in Canada. Maybe not everybody watching this does. I think the majority of them do. And it's like, last time I checked, we can't conceal carry.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's great. Like you said, having a gun in your home, yeah, that can be a huge advantage. But like, I don't stay in my home 24/7.
Yeah.
I go to work. I go to my kids' schools. I go to malls. I go to gas stations, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you're not going to have it with you. Like 90% of the time, you have to go out and do things. You know what I mean? Like, it's not realistic to always have to fall back on any tool, but in this case, a gun, because so many people talk about it. But even in your home, like, if you're storing your firearms safely, and I know not everybody does, but if you are one of the ones that does, I mean, what's your reaction time on getting that out and deploying that in the way you need it when you need it? Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to be really switched on to have all that fall into line. So I just think, like you touched on Murphy's Law, I think there's just way too much room for error, for things to go wrong, for the timing not to work out. So to not be able to fall back on, like what you said, the mindset, that naked self-defense, your own physical skills, capability, your own mindset. Like, I don't know, for me, it's one of the most powerful things I think you can ever have as a man, because it's the one thing that can't be taken from you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can be fired, you can be laid off, you can lose your job, you can lose a lot of your other rights. Like, I mean, there's a ton of things. People, they take your house, a fire could burn down your house. I mean, the list goes on and on. People can steal your car. Like so many things can happen. So many things can be taken from you. But it's like, but your skill set can't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Barring like illness and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you get my point. It's like, it's the one thing that's always with you. And that's why the analogy of naked self-defense is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't be any more clear. It's like, I could literally be naked and I'm just as capable of defending myself as I am any other time in life. And it's like, that's a pretty powerful thing. You know what I mean? A lot of confidence comes from that. So for me, that's always been a huge, motivation and just reason to keep doing what I'm doing and why we've been doing this for so long.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw a couple of things in there, because obviously, like, the idea of that we don't always have our weapons. And listen, we have to differentiate between urban environments and rural environments, because a rural environment where you have 80 acres of property, the gun carry and accessibility to our weapons and firearms there's lots of ways that we as law-abiding Canadian citizens can use firearms to protect ourselves, our family, and our property. And yes, like, again, I'm going to say this multiple times. You have to fight for those rights. You have to work your ass off. We as citizens have to protect our rights. So absolutely, we have to do that. All I'm saying is that there is very little survivable value in putting all of your eggs in the basket and think for half a second that a government or some sort of governing body can't come and take our weapons. And again, you don't have to comply. You can then you pick different battles and fights and all that type of stuff. And many people would not lay down their weapons or not hand them over willingly. Or then you're just going to force it to underground. You're just going to force a lot of people to have, unregistered. Which again, why should you have your registered weapon in the first place? But you get what I mean. So that argument is all there. Yes, 100% defend those things. But like you just said, there's a concept called running the ladder, and in special forces they do this a lot. And the idea is that you should be able to go from a long gun to a short gun to your edged weapon or impact weapon to your empty hands and then back out. So wherever you are in the ladder, context determines content. Not every disease requires the medication of a gun or a knife or whatever it is. So the idea that whether if you need the long gun, you got it, you can do it, you can transition from long gun to short gun to edged or impact weapons to empty hands and back out. Our concept is very similar to this, running the ladder, and that is going from, there's 3 different types of weapon categories: natural, designed, and expedient. So can you run the ladder? Our strategies, tactics, and tools that we use are immutable concepts. It's like gravity. If I take my pen and I drop my pen, gravity pulls it down. I can take it out to my garage, gravity still works. I can take it to China, gravity still works. I can take it anywhere in the world, gravity works. The strategy, tactics, and tools of unconventional urban warfare, they exist, they're immutable concepts. Right? We have 11 singular strategies that create every play that's the solution to every problem that we're going to have. But here's the thing of it. Those 11 strategies don't have to change. But what you have is the 3 different weapons: natural, designed. So again, natural, whatever's on your human body. You're fucking stripped naked. How do you use your body as a weapon? How do those natural tools implement or plug into the strategies, tactics, and tools? But then you might go, well, fuck, I need an upgrade. Why do you need an upgrade? Because I'm outnumbered, I'm outmanned, they're bigger, they're fucking stronger, they're pain altered. So my natural tools are the least efficient way to do it. So now I have design tools. So if I have access to a firearm, if I have access to designed edged weapons and impact weapons and things of that nature, then I can go from natural tools to design tools, and I can still plug that into those 11 strategies, and it works the exact same fucking way. And if I don't have access to my design, so I don't have access to my firearm, my edged weapons or impact weapons and stuff, I can go expedient. So what are the things that we can find in our environment? There's very little argument against the fact how effective expedient weapons can be, simply because all we have to do is look at the prison systems. Last I checked, prisoners aren't fucking issued firearms and and knives and all that kind of stuff. They makeshift a lot of stuff. I mean, they create and makeshift homemade, jury-rigged prison fucking pepper sprays with crushed up glass in it. They fucking do shivs. I know cases where they've built single-shot firearms. I mean, they smuggle stuff. There's a lot of ways. A man's mind, his ingenuity, his determination, his resourcefulness. It is a powerful fucking weapon. So I think you have to separate the conversation between, yes, there are tools. So now you're talking specifically design tools. There are design tools that can make your life a lot fucking easier. I mean, if something happened and we fucking lost the ability we lost access to fuel. Well, what happens? Our cars are no longer fucking operational. If you got no fuel, your car ain't gonna fucking work. But we're gonna figure out a way to get around. You know what I mean? And if all of a sudden you got fucking a dark winter, and now you can't power your solar shit, so your e-bikes and shit like that aren't fucking working, you're still gonna figure out a way to get around. If you still got air in your lungs, you're gonna figure something out. But certain people are gonna get busy dying, and other people are gonna get busy living. I mean, this is one of the biggest arguments about technology now. People are fucking soft because everything is 2 things. Everything is made to be super fucking easy and super right now. Like, my phone's not working. If I can't get it fixed the next 10 minutes, I'm just buying a brand new phone. Throw that one out, get something brand new. So whenever we encounter problems nowadays, it's just like we expect to fix now. Like, there's very little grit and determination to people, which is why people don't want to fucking weaponize the same way. If we're going to go deeper into this, and this is my experience over 30 years of doing this, but I've had many fucking men that come to me. Obviously, majority of men that train with me are firearms owners and shooters, right? They practice, they train, and they're not necessarily sport shooters. A lot of them are hunters and stuff, but they actively, tactically train with their firearms for defense of their self, family, and property. But the other side is that out of these men that come to me, I can tell almost instantaneous, because the ones that are overly invested in their firearms, and that is what they put their stock into, many of them, they quit the physical part of the training because they don't have the conditioning to do it. One guy's remember, you couldn't lift his foot a certain way, and it's like, and this was not because of an injury, this was not because of an illness, this was literally because he didn't do anything. And it was like literally the recommendation was like, dude, you got to start to both strengthen and elongate your hamstrings, right? And it was like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep going with the shooting because that's easier. Like I don't have to do anything else. And that's not a commentary of all people, but it is again, it's a representation of a mindset, right? It's like, what's the easiest way I could do this? And like you said it, I have been in 30 years of doing this 3 different times had individuals with some serious intent threaten me with their firearms, threaten to shoot me because they come to me talking about the ability to defend themselves, and then when they're in there, they don't like the fact that like you got to put some work into shit. I'm exposing weaknesses that they have because isn't that what training is about? Is to shore up. Let's not focus on the things that we're good at. Let's focus on things that are going to get us killed the quickest. And the second that it got to this point where their self-importance, their ego is being hit, they said, oh, if it came right down to it, I'd fucking just blow your head off. Like literally threatening me. And there was a fairly significant problem in all of these situations. They didn't have their guns on them. Their guns were at fucking home somewhere. And yet they're threatening me standing 5 feet away from me with nothing but a whole lot of air and opportunity between us. And if I felt like that was a legitimate threat, I mean, I was armed because I always have a tool on me or multiple tools on me, but I didn't need those tools. I also had the natural tools. And it's like, geez, if you're really going to threaten somebody, you should probably be prepared. If you're going to threaten to shoot a man, you should probably at least have that gun with you. And that, again, is an analogy to just the insanity of this fucking argument. I'd fucking kill you, I'd shoot you. And listen, say, well, the guy could go home and get his gun. Hey, I also am at home, and I also can grab some things. And if, again, I thought that was a serious threat and he left, the last place, he wouldn't make it to his house. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's run it out because anyone can just say, I'm going to go get my gun. Yeah, okay. It's like, I'm going to go home and get my big brother. My dad's going to beat up your dad. Okay.
Like, well, that's not even, that argument isn't even taking into account the whole legal side of everything. Like, if you go home and you go get your gun and you bring it back, you're not defending yourself anymore.
You're a murderer.
You told me for self-defense, you're going to use your gun. But now you're going to go home and get your gun, bring it back, and shoot somebody?
And murder
somebody. Good
somebody.
luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah.
100%. Which is the insanity of how you threaten someone. You just threaten to murder somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's no threat against you. I don't know what the issue was other than the fact that it's like, if you just tell people, and this, I don't even care. I've seen knife guys that are this way, right? They're heavily into the knife arts and, and how fast they can pull the knife out and I'd cut this and cut that. And it's like, listen, the knife's a tool and within the scheme of things, that tool can be very effective. Context determines the content. But there are absolutely situations, scenarios, and times when either A, the knife is inappropriate, whether that's legal, moral, or just it's not the most efficient way to take a human life in that moment. The knife isn't always it. The gun isn't always it. And other times it's like it's inaccessible to you. Other times there's injury. It's a different to use a shotgun or a long gun. It's different if one of your arms is injured and incapacitated. It's different. It's more challenging. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's different. Many people have never worked that. So there's a million different variables. And again, I throw to the plane crash analogy. Isn't it funny how that life just seems to work out that way? Bad shit happens at the worst time. We enjoy going riverboating in the summer. And it's never happened to us. Our riverboat is bulletproof. That thing never breaks down. But for other people that we've seen that look a lot like us and have a very similar boat to us, they seem to always be fucking broken down on the river. Always bad shit's happening. And despite the fact that it happens many times, you think a guy would bring more tools, more spare, he'd be a little better prepared. How many times, at the worst possible time, has something not started, not operated, not worked the way you needed it to work? Or you're like, oh, fuck, I can't believe I don't have this or have that. And this is from people that are often like, it's kind of our business to be prepared for things. So it's Murphy's Law. It's Ares, the god of war, fucking with you, whatever way you want to look at it. A lot of people in survival situations, their ingenuity is amazing, but where does that stem from? Because they're naked warriors. They have the desire to want to survive. And so naked self-defense, I think, should be, because this saying is very powerful. You don't rise to your expectation, you fall to your level of training. If you expect to have your firearm, if you expect to have your Kevlar vest, if you expect to have the foreknowledge that an imminent attack is approaching, if you expect whatever it is that you expect, you don't rise to your expectations, you fall to your level of training. So there's a massive difference between, tacked up, geared up warriors and naked fucking warriors. and naked warriors are a different fucking breed. And then give them the advantages of luxury. Give them the advantages of precision firearms. Give them the advantages of all these different things. So
I think that's, sorry to cut you
no,
off.
go
But I
ahead,
was just
please.
gonna say, I think that's such an important point though, is that for people to not misunderstand what we're saying, we aren't saying that all those other things aren't great, amazing, super powerful. It's like, well, I'll take every one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in a violent encounter, I'll take every opportunity I can have. I'm first one to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just saying without it, you can't be left with nothing. Do you know what I mean? So like, don't misconstrue what we're saying, that these things aren't important and helpful.
Yeah.
But it's like we just don't want to be dependent on it.
Well, and that's it. And what's the worst situation? The worst situation is when you don't have those things. It's harder.
Yeah.
The deck is stacked against you. So how do you switch that? How do you start stacking the deck back? Again, like take the world's top survival expert. And guess what? He wants to go into any challenge you can put in front of him. He wants to bring at least 2 or 3 tools. It's a whole different thing. Ask any one of them. It's a whole different thing. Say if you go in without any tools. There's absolutely environments and conditions and times of year that if you put them out there naked, like just naked, they would survive longer than most of the average person for sure. But they would understand there are conditions and elements where it's like you won't survive that. You know, sometimes you need one thing that gives you an advantage. And then if you don't have it, if it's not a design, like I didn't get to bring the knife, the flint, the whatever the fuck it is, if you don't have that, it takes a very well-trained individual to look around and figure out how they can produce that same result using only the expediency of what's around in nature. It's very challenging. In violence and survival, I believe that is the foundation on which you build all skill and knowledge. You know, it's like you start that way because it is hard and it demands that this leads the battle. The mind's got to precede the body into combat. And if you over focus on any of these, you know, other items, you push off the development of that naked warrior mindset. And again, I'll circle it back because this was I believe my overview, and I kind of almost felt like it's again frustrating because you want people to see a different perspective, but there is absolutely an ongoing battle in our country and in every country in the world pretty much, where people are in that battle between our rights and freedoms to protect and you know, some sort of overreach by some organization, government body, some entity. And that's the history of the world. And if this battle is in fact raging and has been raging, you are going to have times in history where you have more liberties and freedoms and rights to protect. And then there's going to be a swing the other way in the pendulum where there is a much stronger pushback in times and periods where those rights and freedoms are being severely restricted. And those all come at a cost, right? But this is like, it's like who am I in the grand scheme of things? I'm a drop in the ocean. There is political and battles that are raging, that are being played on a level that is far bigger than the majority of us. Now, again, governments should be afraid of their people, and power is in numbers and people and the people's will. My point is just that if you have to recognize this ebb and flow, things are going to happen, and things that happen aren't always going to be what you need them to have. They're not always going to be to your benefit. So as that fight rages and battles on, you do what you have to do. I just believe that, like most warriors, they're offensive mindseted, not defensive in their mindset, meaning we don't sit back blaming other people for the shit that's going on. I don't sit around waiting for fucking Superman to come save me. I don't ever, not even for one fucking second, have I ever sat there and thought whatever the government does with gun laws, I don't feel reduced in my capacity to defend myself really in any way, shape, or form, simply because I have to see it for what it is, not worse than it is. It is what it is, and so I will innovate. I will think outside the box. I will innovate. I will persevere. I will adapt. I will, create, and I will do everything else to try to shore up what disadvantage has been dealt to me. It's like you play cards. You play poker. Someone deals you cards. If you don't get the first cards that you want, they're not the best cards. You don't always fold your hand. sometimes, you're going to get your card on the flop, so to speak. And you got to play the fucking hand. And smart poker players, man, they figure it out. They figure out a way to fucking persevere and win. That's naked self-defense. And I believe it again. You don't rise to your expectation. You fall to your level of training. Get busy living. And then you continue to fight for your rights and everything else. And hopefully, in the timing of your life, you see the pushback the other way. But there's people, I mean, like I've seen it in different ways. Look at technology in our lives. There's periods in our lives where technology has been an amazing thing, and periods of our lives where technology has been a detriment to us, I believe. And so where are you at? And those swings either way can last a few weeks, a few months, a few years, a few decades, maybe a few centuries. I don't know. This is evolution. This is life, right? Not everything happens, but again, we want everything to change instantaneously, and that's not. My training doesn't rely on that. It's like, again, the motto of hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And hope means do everything you can do to fight for your life, like your civil liberties, your rights, your freedoms, the things that you believe in, but prepare for the worst. And I believe the naked warrior mentality is a far superior way to go. And I believe that is just, again, fundamentally, that is what modern man needs to be weaponized for. Right, so that they can run natural, designed, and expedient. It's interchangeable to them. They will use every resource at their disposal, and they will bring all of those resources to bear on a threat with the sole intention of neutralizing that threat and preserving life. Right? So, I don't know. This was kind of, and maybe there's not much left to unpack on this. I like to make sure that I didn't want to just rant about a narrow-minded perspective. I wanted to make sure that anyone that's investing the time to listen to us, there is a takeaway from this. And I think the main takeaway for clarity is ensure that your training is not over-dependent or over-focused on some sort of tool, right? Like, train your entire life with knife skills and firearm skills and survival skills and med tech skills and understanding fighting in urban environments and fighting off geometric angles and understanding and training and studying terrain and studying criminality and bad guy blueprints and sequencing of violence and all of this, building your inner control box and testing yourself and doing hard things and all of this type of stuff, and build yourself and try to condition your body to the best that it can be. You're not in a race or competition with anybody else. We're not fucking all David Goggins. You know what I mean? Like, what is realistic for you to do? I met with a couple guys this week, and they have some severe physical limitations due to accidents, workplace and otherwise. And yet their limitations are their limitations, but they are leading full lives still. They are working and rehabbing and rebuilding and reshaping how they're doing things. And that applies to, again, it's like, listen, you more than ever need that naked warrior, naked self-defense mindset. Because we have to accept the again, you crash in a plane. If you're injured, if your legs hurt, you first aid your leg, and if you got to hike over the Andes Mountains, maybe you got to eat a guy or two. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have the ready to eat meals. You didn't have the military survival food packs. So, get busy living or get busy dying. Naked self-defense is the epitome of that. So make sure that there is that bigger, deeper, long mindset, long game with the mindset, not just, over specializing or over depending on just one skill set. Because there's a lot of detriment to that, right? Murphy's Law never seems to work out the way that you hope it to, right? Bad guys don't like to cooperate that way. It's funny, but that's just how they are. Okay, so I don't know. Is there anything else on your side, Dustin, that you think that we could throw down range?
Just off the point you made there about, you met with a couple guys who have some physical limitations, and it's like, yeah, you know what? I mean, kudos to them, because they get what I think a lot of people don't get, and that's that nobody gets a buy. Like, oh, maybe training physically appears harder to you, or based on what you think it's going to be, when really the strategies can all be adapted and changed and customized, and it doesn't have to be, but it would certainly look that way from the outside. And it's like, but they're still there. They still met with you. And it's like, what's everybody else's excuse? It's like, we're all equally at risk. You know what I mean? Or close to. Obviously, there's exceptions, but you get my point. And so it's just like nobody gets a buy. So yeah, you got to put in some work, and that work may have to get adapted. But that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of like naked self defense. It's not tool driven.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one specific thing. It's strategies, and those strategies are it's the most powerful thing you can have. So
Yeah. Yeah, like maybe I'll just hit this because this is what I explained to those guys, and I've kind of already set it up so I can just finish it off. The the strategies we use is the counter strategies to the four different bad guy blueprints, right? Four different types of violent assaults that you could ever face. We have 11. We have our playbook, our 11 counter strategies. Those don't change. They're like gravity. They are what they are. Then I talked about the natural, designed, and expedient tools. There is a thing when if you come to me and you're 25 years old and you're a physical fucking specimen, you know what I mean? You're just running marathons and doing all that type of stuff, right? You have access to all three of those. Your natural tools can be fucking off the charts, right? You can handle designed weapons and you can handle expedient weapons. You just have all access to all three. So all three of those, any one of those or combination of those can be plugged into your 11 strategies. Now all of a sudden you're 45 years old, but you suffered in a motorcycle accident and you've lost a leg and partial use of one of your arms. Well, guess which of the three has been compromised? Your natural tools. That doesn't mean now, again, you're only 45 years old. Despite these injuries, despite these setbacks and challenges, you're a fucking specimen. You know what I mean? You just fucking still are doing things. You're fucking, doing a shot put in fucking Special Olympics. I mean, or for amputees and stuff. Like you're still going. So natural tools are compromised to a degree. That's just the reality. But you still have access to them. But do you have designed and expedient? Fuck yeah. Matter of fact, you put a little more focus on your designed and expedient tools, and those plug into the same 11 strategies you had when you're 25. Now all of a sudden you're 68 or you're 75 or you're like one of our guys, you're 86. At 86 years old, but still in really great shape, good mobility for 86, but you're fucking 86. Which of the three tools do we think is more compromised now just simply due to age? Well, clearly the natural tools. So guess what? They're not going to be able to plug in as many of the natural tools. The 11 strategies, tactics, and tools, like 11 strategy and tactics haven't changed. Now he just doesn't have as much access to the natural tools. But guess what? Especially over a decade or more of work, the fucking design tools are insane. Right? The viciousness, the ruthlessness, the cunning, the precision, the placement, you know what I mean? Now this guy can adapt these things and he can use multiple different natural tools and he can use expedient tools. And so he can still run the counter strategies very, very effectively at 86 years old. Most things you can't do that. Most things, there's a retirement, there's an expiration date. You're a great kickboxer at 25. You're a great Thai fighter at 25. You maintain that to your 30, let's say 35 even. Some guys push it, they're in their 40s, they're really, really good. But most guys, by the time you're in your 40, 45, the average person, the average North American person, is you're not even close to the top of your gym. You're somewhere in the lower middle of the pack. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for 20 years, in your fucking 20s and 30s, you were fucking dynamite. But now in your late 30s, early 40s, 50s, any slight injury and you're fucked. Like there's an expiration and a retirement on a lot of these things. And violence is a much simpler formula. So again, it comes down to this, the naked self-defense can even apply to style. If you say, well, I am doing natural self-defense. I'm a Thai boxer, so wherever you strip me naked in the world, I can Thai box, right? I can do my tools. But there's an expiry date to those. And so naked self-defense, going one step deeper, is the strategies, tactics, and tools, and the natural, designed, and expedient weapons and things that you can plug into these things. They don't have an expiration date that is predicated off age or attribute loss, which is going to happen to every single one of us. It's happening right fucking now. I mean, at 52, I'm different than when I was at 42. But at 52, I train all the time. I'm still in reasonably good shape. And that means I can still use the natural, design, and expedient. And I hope to maintain that till I'm into my 70s. But it will change. 32 to 52 to 72, there's going to be change. Right? And so the great thing is I never have to opt out of my own self-defense, my own personal protection. Because when I started this, again, the blessing I received was my instructors understood how you build a warrior is naked self-defense first. Naked warriors, like you build them from the ground up, the inside out mindset, down. And that's, I think, I see it as a very, very, very special gift that not everybody receives. So that was my idea behind that. That's the takeaway I'd want people to have that are listening to this podcast. So I don't know. Final thoughts, D?
Yeah, no, not really. I think that was a really good way to kind of tie it all up. And
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. Well, we'll look. This is how much Brad does. About 20 minutes worth of talking.
yeah, I guess, eh?
Usually we're about an hour mark. That's just organically. We're a little bit early. We're only 40 minutes, so we're just. I find we're very
Two-thirds.
precise. You know, we just like to get to the point. Vandalay likes to hear himself talk. Maybe I don't know. No,
Blah, blah,
we
blah.
missed having his insights. What's that?
Said blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, blah
Vandalite.
blah
Like,
blah. Yeah,
thought it was you, but no.
yeah.
it's
No,
him.
it's yeah. You guys always blame me, but no, it's Vandalite. We figured it out. This is proof. I better shut up, otherwise it'll be 45 minutes before I get off. It'll be like, see. Okay, so listen, we're gonna wrap it up here for tonight. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate everybody. Please, hopefully, this again every day. We just want to make sure every time we do a podcast, I want you to take value away from it. Hope you found value in this today. And that's it, everybody. Please, the world. I mean, the world is crazy. It's full of lots of great people, but man, things are crazy right now, man. The world is on a teetering point. It sure feels like anyhow. So please, stay safe, stay weaponized, and we will chat again soon, everybody. Take care.